Today is June 21st, 2007. I'm Cassie Potasic, and it is a pleasure to conduct this interview for the Dakota Memories Oral History Project in Knox, North Dakota. Can you please tell me your full name?
Magdalena Miller. And Magdalena and Miller are already goofed.
When and where were you born?
I was born here in this house August 23rd, 1916. And I lived here all my life, and I sleep in the same bedroom I was born in.
Wow. Have you ever heard an interesting story about your birth?
Yep, my mom was in the field shocking grain and had to come in and deliver me.
Really? Was there a midwife or a doctor?
No. My mother was a midwife for other people,
Really?
but she took care of herself.
All right. Can you share your earliest memory with us?
Oh dear. Well, and I would say maybe I would be about 8 years old, eight or 9. And I had a little brother that was younger than me, and Dad went to the field to work across the railroad track, and he followed Dad, and nobody knew he was going. He got hit by the train. I can remember that just like it happened today.
Do you remember anything else about it? Do you remember anything else about that? Do you remember anything else about that?
No, we just went out to the track, ran out to the track, and the train hit the cow catcher, hit him. But he was killed. He hit a rock when he fell, so he was killed.
Do you remember? Oh, go ahead. Do you remember the funeral?
Well, in those days, they didn't really have a funeral. We didn't have a church yet in those days.
Well, let's start the camera.
And a year after this one got killed, we lost another brother through pneumonia.
That must have been really hard for your family.
Happened.
That must have been very hard for your family.
It was.
Now, was there doctors available?
No. They were both younger than me, so.
Were you fairly isolated out here growing up?
No, we had people in town in those days. It was a pretty good sized little town, but in the past years it's just gone to pot.
Okay. Well, can you tell me about your grandparents?
They all came from Russia.
Did they?
Yeah, so I really don't. Let me see if people. I had it all on here.
Well, that's all right. Do you remember them at all?
No, because they were over in Russia. They never came with the folks. They just come by themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. And there it is. Oh, my mom and dad were born in Russia.
Both of your parents?
Yeah.
Were?
Dad came from Odessa, and Mom came from Strasbourg in Russia. And I don't know how they met, but they were married on May the 4th, 1906 in Alsace-Lorraine, Russia. my oldest sister was born over there, and she was just a toddler when they came over.
Have you ever heard any interesting stories about coming over?
Oh, it was a long ride coming on the boat,
I'll bet.
but they had no difficulties of any kind, you know. They just got on the boat and came. They got off in that place in Canada, where is it?
In
Where everybody comes up.
Ellis Island?
Yeah. And then should I just keep on talking about the folks?
Sure.
And they came to Strasburg, North Dakota. And that had to be sometime in, I don't know what, I haven't got the year down. And they went to my mother's sister's home. By Sebastian, no. Isn't that awful? No, my mind is a blank. Anyway, they went to my aunt's place, and they stayed there and worked for them to get the money, pay them the money back that they gave for them to come over here. Then after he had been there long enough, he got enough money so he could pay that off and buy a little farm over in Dodge, North Dakota. Then Dad somehow got a hold of this Harry Russell that used to live here, and then they moved up here then from Dodge, North Dakota in 1916, April 1916. And this little chick was born in August 1916.
Wow.
August 23rd. From then on, first of all, I'm from a family of 15. And 2 years ago, I lost the last one of my sisters and brothers.
So you're the only one left.
I was the middle one. It was 7 ahead and 7 behind. So I was the middle one. So I'm still here, and I don't know why, but I'm here.
Can you tell me the birth order of your siblings? Can you list your siblings in order for me?
Yeah, sheet of paper. Annie, or Anna, Michael, Juliana, Lambert, Matthias, Catherine, Wilhelmina, and Magdalena, Longenius, Dionysius, these are German names now. Sylvester, Eustachius, Rosina, Adam, and Eva. This is how our name was originally.
Mueller?
But then they didn't like, they were teased that they were Russians, you know. So they didn't like it, so I wrote to Bismarck and I got all the names changed to Miller. It's on record Miller now instead of Mueller. Oh, gee. And this is the way the record was kept. Can you get a picture of that? This is in German now.
Right.
German.
Wow.
You got it? Okay. Okay. And I have that record up there on the wall.
Oh, okay.
And then on the end over here, as they got married, they wrote it in there. And then when they died, I wrote it in there. So I think I got it up to date. I'm not too sure. But
Can you tell me about your family while you were growing up? What were your parents like?
oh, my parents, Dad was and Mother were strict churchgoers. And when we first came here, they didn't have no church here. So they got the priest to come out from Rugby. He used to come on the train and he'd stay overnight. And we'd have Mass here in the house. Had that for about maybe 5, 6 years. And during that time, we had 2 weddings and quite a few baptisms here in the house. And then after that, then they got the priest to come in. They rented buildings in to have it. But Dad was very strict. And so was Mother, for that matter. I can't keep asking me questions.
Okay.
That'll help.
Can you describe your relationship with your father?
Very good relationship. And with Mother. I never give him any trouble. I was a good little girl. And we used to have such big gardens, and raise all our own vegetables and meat. And our job as kids was to keep the garden clean, or else. And so that we had a small garden over there, and then we put this back here was garden. Then after that, it got way out there to the highway. We had to have a big garden clear out to the highway. And then we would sell, as kids, we would be so anxious to go out and pick the peas and the beans because we could take it uptown and sell them to get a little money, So that was one of our big jobs, to keep the gardens clean.
Were your parents affectionate people? Did they show their emotions?
Yeah. Dad, especially when we washed dishes, we always had a phonograph. And we girls would be wiping dishes. And he came in and he'd take the towel out of our hands and we'd have to come out here and dance. And he was good to all of us. Both Mom and Dad were good people. Yeah. Well liked.
What was your father's profession?
Farmer. Well, he did for a while there. He was a city marshal. Big deal. But that's what he was for a little while. But then his main interest was farming.
How about your mother? Did she ever work outside the home?
No. She had enough to do with taking care of all that. Yeah.
Great. Can you tell me anything else about your parents?
No. I just, like what?
Well, what kind of people were they? Do
Well,
you remember any stories?
They were one thing about this house, there was always somebody here to eat. Dad would go up, he would go down the highway, or down the old road. In those days, that wasn't a highway, it was just a road. If there was somebody out there wanted on a walk, he'd bring them in for lunch. And that was his, both Mom and Dad were good that way. And to this day, it's still the same. People still come out here and have lunch with me. Yeah. So.
When and where did your father die?
When? Where's my sheet of paper? Yeah, Dad died in Rochester, Minnesota. Mom and I were there with him. He died in January 17th, 1946. 65 years old. And Mom passed away on April 11th, 1957. And she was 75 years old.
Can you tell me about your brothers and sisters growing up?
Well, they all had to work hard. I mean, Dad had a job for everyone. And they all worked hard, and until they were in the age, I suppose about 21, the first ones left home. They went out west to Washington State to Milton Freewater. The oldest one went out first, and after he was there a while, then the second one, Lambert, took off and went out west. And then maybe about 4 years later, then Matt went west, and he went to Yakima. And then my sister Catherine got married in '34. She went to Walla Walla. And of course, by that, my sister Mina, we called her Mina, but she was Wilhelmina. She had passed away in Devil's Lake before all this took place. And then Gus was the next one. He farmed here after Dad passed away. He stayed on the farm here. And I think he went west. Oh gosh, I don't know what. I remember what year it was. But he went out and was married here, and then he moved out there and quit farming. And he went to Walla Walla. And then my sister Catherine got married in '41, and she moved to Walla Walla. See, they kind of went to the same town, you know. And then I had a brother Dean that was in the Navy, and he married a woman from Montana. And then he moved out west. Let's see, he went to, he was in the Seattle area. And then, of course, my sister Mina, she died in Devil's Lake, and the rest of them kind of stayed around here.
Okay.
So, but now I have nobody, but nieces and nephews. And as for myself, I stayed home here with her all the time. And I took care of my mom until she passed away. But before that, I used to go out and clean houses, paint wallpaper and paint. And when I think now how hard I work for $1 an hour, I could kick myself. But anyway, and then I worked in the post office for 66 years, part-time. So in that time, I still kept up with some of my cleaning stuff. And then after Mother died in '57, I was still working in the post office. So I've just been here ever since. But and as for sports, I was no skater. I was no snowshoer. But I did like to bowl. And I've got my pins back there. I bowled a 200, I think it was a 210 game.
Nice.
And then I've got articles on the wall there to prove it. And then, but I still kept up with the post office work, but it was only part-time. And as of now, I'm still gardening, but I had to quit cutting grass because my mowers quit. So I have a couple of young kids that come and do it for me now. So I would love to be mowing if my mower would work, but they worked on it so much they said they can't do no more with it. So, and I can't get a big mower. I can't lift the thing, you know. So I got to do what I can do. So that's. Well, what else did I do? Well, I have worked in 2 grocery stores at one time, part-time, and then had a cream station part-time. And I can't think of anything else right now. And you want to know what place I belong to, like clubs?
Yeah, but how about we get there in a little bit? Let's talk about your family a little bit more before we move on.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I don't think you care what they died from.
Your parents, what
Well,
happened?
Dad had to go to Rochester for a cancer operation.
Okay.
He passed away there. And I found Mother on the floor one day when I came home from work. She had dropsy. Trying to think how many of them had. My last sister, she had cancer. And Rosie had diabetes. And Gus died of cancer. And let's see, Dean had a heart attack. Mina had leukemia. And Lambert had a heart attack. Mike had a heart attack. Annie just old age. I'm sure I'm missing some of them there, but that's okay. They aren't sure to hear this anyhow.
That's up to you.
So if I miss them, I miss them. Adam had shingles so bad, and he had to have oxygen, you know. So he passed away from that. And Kate, I don't know what, she had some female problems. I remember now what you call it. Oh, my mind ain't working too good today.
Well, do you remember when any of your siblings were born?
I can remember Eva so plain because she was 10 years younger than me, so I could remember when she was born. And from me down, that'd be 8 of them, were born here in this house. All except Adam. He was in the hospital because Mom had fallen and broken her leg. So she had to go to the hospital for that. And he was born in the hospital, but he's the only one of the 15.
Did your mother ever have a midwife, or was
No,
she just always?
Dad was her midwife. I can remember when Eva was born, and when he come out and he told us we had a baby sister. All of a sudden, all you heard was a wail. And we knew she was there. But that was all new to us, you know, have this happen.
Do you have any other interesting stories about your siblings' births?
Well, the boys, once in a while, we get into a tiff with each other. But as a rule, they were pretty sensible kids, all of them. Yeah. And they had to all work hard. And of course, you didn't have any money for anything. You couldn't run to town and spend a nickel because you didn't have it. But when we did get a nickel, it wasn't far to run. And that didn't happen too often. And one time, my sister and I, we had got money just given to us, you know. And we thought, well, we'd run uptown and spend it. So we started out and went out here. Dad whistled at us, so we knew it was us he was wanting to get back home again. But we just said to each other, let's just go and we'll tell him we didn't hear him. Sure enough, we went uptown and got our candy and come home, and as we were coming in the gate out here, he was standing out here, and he said, and he didn't say nothing to us. All he said was, we didn't hear your whistle, Dad. We didn't hear your whistle. Told on ourselves. He said, the next time I whistle, he said, you stop. But anyway, that's one of the things I did one time. Let's see. And Dad belonged to a German society, and he was very faithful in that. And he would go wherever they had their meetings. He would go because I can't think. Trying to think of the name of it. I don't remember that now either. No, it doesn't come to me. And Mom was a quiet sort of person. She talked, but she wasn't loud or boisterous. You know, she was kind of a quiet lady. We spent many hours together quilting, her and I. And that was our pastime. I wanted to learn to play the piano, and I took a few lessons, but I never had a chance to practice because we always had a quilt in the frames. So I didn't get a chance to do any practicing. Now I can't play nothing. So. Oh, and then this picture of Dad with a wagon or something. You know, and one other thing I remember one time when we used to have a barn out here, and the doors were open. It was summer. The doors were open, and the boys hauled out a load of manure across the track to the field. And when they came back, the horses run away on them. We were out in the yard here, and I grabbed a couple of the kids and took them up to the house here, and they came through the pathway out here, right to the barn, went right through that barn and didn't touch the inside of the barn anyway with a wagon. They just went right straight through and back to we had a hay fence back behind the barn, and with hay in it. And they come back and they run right into that thing, and that stopped them. But boy, were we scared. Ooh. And that's the only time that we ever had that happen here that I can remember. And
So, as kids, did you ever get into mischief?
we knew better than to get into mischief. Because if we'd have got into mischief, we'd have been clobbered. But, well, sometimes you do little odd dumb things, you know, but nothing that stands out. Because we knew better.
Who was the stricter parent?
Dad.
Really?
Yeah. Well, and one time one of my brothers went to school, and they tried to tell his teacher that he knew more than she did. And he started to spiel things off. She just told him to be quiet. That evening she walked out here and she told Dad what Matt did. Boy, that poor kid, he got such a beating. Dad just really let him have it. Says from now on, he says, when anybody taking care of you, he said, you keep your mouth shut and listen. And after that, he straightened up pretty good.
Which one of your siblings were you closest to?
My sister Rosie and my sister Catherine and Eva. Eva really the closest. She was the youngest one, and she was here longer than anybody else. She just died 2 years ago now. No, a year ago in September she died. And we were very close. We'd be on that telephone. Well, Rosie too. We'd be on that telephone half a day. You know, and since Eva's been gone now, but I still could pick up that phone and dial her number. Without thinking, I just dial it. Then after it rings, then I think, well, she's not there to answer her phone. So, yeah. Well, I graduated in 1934 from high school. And I was crowned queen in my senior year. And about 3 years ago, I threw it away, and I shouldn't have. All it was a piece of tissue that you could stretch, you know. It was about this high. They cut it about that high, and then put a little flower on it, and that was my crown. And I don't know why I threw it away. I should have kept it just for. So that. Oh, let's see what else.
Well,
Well, and I did my yard work up, like I said before, about till last year. I had to give it up, but I still got a garden, and it looks pretty good out there. When you get the weeds out. Oh dear. And then a few years back, we had so much snow that one winter, and it out in our yard here was as high as the house. And then we couldn't. We still had cattle, so my brother dug a tunnel, or clear out to the barn, so that we had to milk the cows and bring the milk in here and separate it, and then take it back out for the calves. And so it was easier to go through the tunnel than it was to walk over it. And then we used to have a archway out over my fence out here, my gate. And he dug a tunnel through that archway and out. And I've got the pictures here someplace, but heavens knows where. Because he was such a photographer, he was taking pictures, and I've got 2 suitcases up there, just pictures that he sent me. And I didn't know where to start looking, So I didn't look. But I did find this one of Dad with the horses.
What were winters like for you when you were growing up?
Pardon?
What were winters like for you when you were growing up?
What were what?
What were winters like when you
Oh,
grew
winter.
up?
We had a lot of snow. We had a lot of snow. This has been exceptional these last couple of years. Yeah. And then when Dad passed away, we had to have the morning. They brought him out here then for the wakes, and we had to have the snow open. The yard opened up for that to bring him in. The next morning, when they had the funeral, they had to come and open the roads so we could get out of here, and it was storming, so then they had to take him out to the cemetery. And they had to open up the road to the cemetery so we could get out to the cemetery. There was a lot of snow that year. Yeah. So the last years have been mild, really, And I've been pretty fortunate. I pay taxes in town and taxes in the county. So they are pretty good about keeping my road open. So I don't have to worry about being blocked in.
Growing up, did you ever get blocked in so you couldn't get out?
No, we always got it. In the first years, we would go out and shovel pathway, but we had fences right along the road out here, and that was the wrong thing. That just piled her in. But we always managed to get out some way. I know when I was bowling that one year, the road was so heavy, and I didn't want the lady to drive in so she'd get stuck. So I carried my bowling ball clear out to the road. By the time I got done, I thought, I don't need to bowl. I've already had my exercise. Oh.
When you were little, what kinds of games did you play?
Well, we generally played ante-I over. And then somebody threw the ball over and hit my one sister on the head and she passed out. So that took care of that ante-I over that day. And then we used to play in the house if it was winter. One would get under the table, then we'd run back and forth in this room. And if this one come out and tagged you, then you had to go under the table, and he come out. And then we'd played cards, rummy, and things like that. Because we didn't have no videos like they got nowadays, You had to make your own fun. But we never got to where we said, oh, I'm bored to death. Like kids do nowadays. They've got everything under the sun and they're all bored. But we didn't have time to be bored. We always had something. And if we'd have told Dad that we were bored, that would have been the last thing to do. Because he'd have found something.
What other things did you do for entertainment?
We played baseball. And then we'd go to parties. We'd have our own house parties. one neighbor, the neighbors would come here, and then we'd serve lunch, and the next time we'd go to one of the other neighbors. And then finally we got a guy that joined us that played accordion. So then we had dances after that. But we never had to have any hard liquor or beer to have a good time. We just never even thought of that. And none of them smoked in a crowd, so they were just nice, clean house parties. And most of those kids that are in those houses are gone already. I'm trailing them.
Did you have a radio growing up?
Pardon?
Did you have a radio?
Oh yeah, we had a radio. And that's lots of times that would be playing, and that's when Dad would come and get us too if it was playing a good old time waltz. So you didn't wipe any more dishes, you come out and danced. And not too many parents would have done that. But he liked music, Mom liked music.
Were they musical people? Could they play instruments?
No. In fact, the only one that really did any playing was Eva. She played the piano, organ. Yeah. Go ahead.
Did you ever play with any animals on the farm? Or?
I wasn't too much of an animal lover. And I still don't like cats and dogs in a house. I like them outside, but I don't want them in my house. But I don't have either one right now, so.
All right. Do you remember any of the toys you had?
Yeah, one year, my sister Mina, Catherine, and I each got a doll. Beautiful doll. But Mama always made us hang them up during the week. We couldn't play with them. We put them in the boxes, hung them up over their bedroom. And, excuse me. But on Sunday, we could take our dolls down and play with them on Sunday. So we had those dolls for a couple of years. They didn't have a chance to get dirty or nothing. Yeah, that's all I can really remember that I had as a kid, you know. Well, in the olden days when we had Christmas, we never got gifts. The table was sitting in there at that time, and they had a lady here, some friend of the family, and she was the fairy for Christmas, you know. And then when we come downstairs that morning, we had to be sure and greet the folks. And then there was a little bowl sitting there with candy and peanuts, and then 50 cents laying there. But we couldn't have that 50 cents until we said Merry Christmas to the folks. And then you got your 50 cents. And this other old lady they had is a Christkindle. She wanted to slap our fingers, so we couldn't pick up that money, 50 cents. I can remember that so plain.
Can you tell me more about Christmas when you were growing up?
Well, we always had a nativity set in the front room. We had a little altar in the corner at that time. And we had a nativity setting on the altar. And we had to always say our prayers. That was one thing. Every night we had to say the rosary. That was a must with the family. And then we always had to kneel down. We couldn't sit down. And we kneeled down, and I had a sister, Mina. She was never very strong. Every once in a while she'd pass out before the rosary was done. She was too weak to kneel. But she wanted to do what the folks said to do, so.
Did you have Christmas trees?
Yeah, not in the real early days, but I would say I was probably about 15 when we started getting a Christmas tree. And it always had a real at that time a real one, you know. And we had a priest that was here at one time, and he came from Germany, and he gave Mother some trinkets to hang on the tree, and I still have them.
Really?
Yeah. So they go on my fake tree now. I wouldn't want to bother with a real one anymore. No, it's too much work. I just have a small one that's got lights on it, and that's it.
Did you celebrate with extended family?
With the family?
Yep.
Oh, they always would come here. My sister that died a couple years ago, she had 10 children. And almost every other Sunday they would be here or I would be over there. They lived in Silva at the time. And I used to go down there during the week and we'd butcher chickens and things like that. I'd help. I tried to help as much as I could because her family was pretty small. I mean, they were all small children. I used to go down and give them haircuts, save them a little money. Oh, what else did I do? I guess I should have had this all written down and just read it to you.
No. It's better to have you tell stories. So, can you tell me about other holidays growing up?
Well, if it was a church holiday, like New Year's Day or Christmas Day or Easter, that was always church first. And then we'd have them all out here to the family. It'd be Eva's family and my other sister Rosie's family. And we'd always have big meals.
What kinds of foods did you fix for holidays?
We always tried to have a turkey for Thanksgiving. And then I always had to have noodle soup for dinner. That was a must. You had the noodle soup, and then you had your chicken or turkey, whatever you had for meat. And one time, my sister and her husband and family were here, Eva and her family, and I had made chicken noodle soup. And her husband, at home, he hardly ever ate it when she made it. And he said to her, "Why can't you make noodle soup like Maggie?" Well, she said, "I do," but she said, "You won't let me put in the tomatoes, but if Maggie puts it in, then it's okay, huh?" Then that's what it was, just that I put in tomatoes, and he wasn't supposed to have tomatoes. I mean, it bothered his whatever he had. And anyway, I always had tomatoes in mine, and he always thought it tasted so much better. She looked at me and she says, "Next time, don't put tomatoes in."
How did you celebrate Easter when you were a child?
Well, when I was a little child, Mom almost did the Easter eggs. But after I got big enough so I could do Easter eggs, then I'd always go out every night, the night before, and put nests out on one side of the garage. I'd build little nests, for the kids that I knew would be here. And Eva's family always come. And then I had my brother Adam and his wife. They lived at Garrison, and they always came over. And then I had put Easter eggs out in the hen house, in the nests. So I'd send them out to look for Easter eggs. Well, they'd find those nests right away. And I said, "Well, go out and bring the eggs from the hen house." I said, "There's got to be some eggs in there today. I need some." And they'd go out, and they were so surprised because they found colored Easter eggs on the nests. And I had one of my nieces wrote to me last year for Easter. She said, "Aunt Maggie, I sure miss going out picking up my Easter eggs out by the garage." So these memories last for them too, And we never had that kind of money. We could buy a new dress every time we turned around, So I always had to wear hand-me-downs. So I never did have a decent Easter outfit. But and to this day, I said, I don't even care because it always rains or snows on Easter Sunday. So you couldn't wear it anyway. So.
Did your family ever celebrate the 4th of July?
Well, we have it out here, because you had to go clear to Rugby if you were going to, And then up here, when they did have it in firecrackers and Knox, you could hear them clear out here. But I had an empty grain bin one year, and my brother Gus, and then Father Miller was still living in Knox at that time. They went to work and threw those big long strips of firecrackers in the grain bin. and they could hear them uptown. My friend Mary Clemens, she said to her husband, she said, "Well, Maggie's at it again. Can you hear it?" And they could hear it clear uptown, that pop, pop, pop in that grain bin. But oh, when we got it done, all that paper and that grain bin floor out there was just covered, from the firecrackers. So they always shot off some things out here, the boys. They always got some somewhere.
Right. Can you tell me anything else about holidays when you were growing up?
Well, most of the holidays we had people here to eat. Yeah, so this was a centralized place here. So I never went any place on holidays. I always stayed home. Yeah. And I have taken a few trips out to Washington State in my lifetime. But after my sister passed away, now I haven't been any place because we always traveled together. Yeah. So.
When you were little, did you celebrate birthdays?
Oh yeah. There was always a birthday cake, and we had a group of ladies here in town. At one time, I had 22 ladies out here for a birthday party. They came. I think every lady in town came out. And now it's gotten so small. There's only 3 of us now, because there's nobody left in town.
How about names days? Did you ever celebrate those?
The folks used to celebrate names days, but the younger generation don't now anymore. But they used to celebrate, and they'd get together and they'd have a little something to drink and sit and play cards. Or if there was a Mr. Bush and another man used to have music, so then they'd come and especially if the older folks had their names day. Then they'd dance like crazy. Things would go on till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. But if you tell them that now, they'd say, "Oh no, we didn't."
Do you remember anything else about celebrations growing up?
Not much more than that. My oldest brother was married here, not in the house, but here in Knox. And they had his wedding dance. They started celebrating the night before with a big meal. And then they danced until 2 o'clock in the morning, got up and went to church the next morning. They were married, they come home, and they kept it on all day until the wee hours of the next morning, dancing around here.
Do you remember any more details about his wedding?
No. But the year he brought her back to get married here, that was the year we had a snowbank out here higher in the house. So I'll always remember that winter. Wow. I have pictures of her and I on top of the snowbank. But she's gone and he's gone, so. And that picture there is my mom and dad's wedding picture.
Oh, really? That's really neat. Well, how about you tell me about going to school when you were little?
Yeah, we went to, had 12 years of schooling here in town. And as a toddler, in the wintertime, they always took us to school, with a sled. And otherwise, we'd walk from here to across the railroad track. It's about a fourth of a mile. And I always had good relationships with all the kids in school, never had any problems. And I liked all of my teachers. Got along real good with all of them. So 12 years.
Was it a one-room schoolhouse?
No, we had 1 and 2. We had first, second, and third in one room, third, fourth, and fifth in the other, sixth, no, first, second, and third, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, seventh, and eighth upstairs, and then a high school that had one room by itself. And all of there was 11 of us that graduated, I think it was 11. There's nobody left, they're all gone.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I don't know. I don't know what I wanted to be. I had nothing in mind. And when I started working in the post office, I had a girlfriend, her dad had the post office. And then he passed away. So then I used to go in there just to see how it was all doing and helped her with putting out the mail just for something to do. And then she gave it up and somebody else got it. And then he swindled a little bit. So then when he left the country, then I got put in. So. Now, and I was the postmaster, I think about 6 months. And then we had to write an examination, and I lost out to a college graduate. But I worked then for him all those years. So, and when he retired, then I took over. I wasn't really put down as a post, I was just acting postmaster. So I had it then until, I worked for him until he died. No, until he retired. He retired. Then I was in again as another acting postmaster until they put somebody else from Wolford in as postmaster. And after that, then this other gal from Vivian Sitter came here as postmistress. So I worked for her all the years she was there. And then after she retired, then I took it over again as postmaster. And then they put somebody from Wolford to come down, the postmaster from Wolford. So then I worked under her then till I retired. I was there for 66 years. It was a long time. But they weren't full days. At first they were full days, but now towards the last it was only 2 hours a day. And then when I retired, they got Pat Robbins to take it over. And as soon as she got there, then they started putting computers in and handheld scanners. So I said, bye-bye, because I don't have any of that kind of stuff. And my eyes I was having trouble seeing the small numbers on the handheld computer. No, not computer. Scanner. So I wanted to get out of there before I made big mistakes. So I'm glad I'm retired. I'm enjoying it. Now you ask me questions.
All right, can you tell me a little bit more about your school?
Well, it was a large school. It had 12 grades, 1 through 12. And we had a big lot behind us. We'd go out and play kitten ball.
Kitten ball?
Baseball.
Oh.
Baseball, kitten ball, baseball. And then we'd have volleyball nets out there, play volleyball. And then if you didn't want to play either one, you just walked around and talked. And the school was always kept up real good. I mean, we had good teachers. All the teachers were good. And then in my high school, last year of high school, we had Mr. Eichnes as our teacher. Anyway, this one girlfriend of mine used to live right over here when there was a house there. She always kept calling me a German Russian. Always called me a Russian. And especially if I didn't help her with some of her lessons. So one day when we were having a class, and she asked me something and I didn't answer her, and she said, "Oh, you're German Russian." So I said, "Mr. Eichnes, can I ask you a question?" "Okay, Maggie, what do you want?" Magdalena, he always called me Magdalena. He said, what would you like to know? I said, my parents were born in Russia. I was born in the United States. I said, what does that make me? He said, a United States citizen with Russian background. But he said, you wouldn't be called a Russian. And I turned around and I said to her, Wally, now did you hear that for the first and the last time? And then he said to me, what's going on? And I said, I'll tell you after class. I was so disgusted. Every day she called me a German Russian. And I didn't want to be called a Russian. The German part was okay, but the Russian part wasn't.
What was so bad about the Russian part?
I don't know. Because, well, at that time, Russia was always in war, you know. My dad cooked for the general in the Russian army at one time, before they were married and came over, you know. So they were always fighting over there, about like we're doing nowadays in Iraq. And I don't think we should be in Iraq either. That's my opinion. Okay, shoot.
Well, what background was your friend?
Huh?
What background was your friend from?
They were Norwegian and Irish, yeah, and German.
Was there other tension in your school because of children of different ethnicities?
No. See, when the folks moved here, the older ones, because I wasn't born right away, but when they went to school, they always called them Russians. And they used to get into fights, you know, because the boys didn't want to be called Russians. But then that finally queued down then, until she came up with this, with me. So I wasn't ashamed that I was Russian, but I didn't hate to be always called Russian, you know, just, and it was vengeance when she'd say it, you know, so. But then we always were good friends anyway, regardless. So, yeah. One time she come over here and I was babysitting. My job was babysitting the younger ones. And this one day we decided to go upstairs with the kids. We probably put them to sleep. And so we just wondered what it would be like if we could crawl out the window and let ourselves down. Yeah, that's kind of high, you know. But we both did it. Well, then that night I took the kids up to put them to bed. When I got up, I thought, well, I'll go out the window like I did this afternoon, not thinking of the time of day it was, or the time of night. And we had thrashers in the yard at that time. So I got up out of bed and I let myself down the outside of the window. I got outside and I went out and asked one of the fellas what time it was. And here it was 10 o'clock at night. And I thought, how am I going to get back in the house? The door was locked. I had to go down the basement door, come up, go outside and lock the door. Put the basement door down and lock this door and get back upstairs to bed without anybody hearing me, and I did it. And about 10 years ago, or no, it's been longer than that now, I suppose about 10 years after it happened, I was telling my mother about it. She says, you should have been spanked. I said, I was afraid of that. If you'd have caught me coming in the house at that hour of the night, I would have been. But I came in and I snuck upstairs and she didn't even know anything happened until I told her that about 10 years later. So you do dumb things sometimes. So I sleepwalked.
Did you?
But nobody got hurt, so. But dumb. Anything else?
Okay, well, did you ever speak German in school?
Oh yeah, we always spoke German. My mother didn't learn the English right away, you know, took her a while. But then finally, in the later years, she was able to talk English. But when her and I talked, it was always in German. And now I can't hardly say a word in German because, you know, there's nobody to talk to. And you kind of lose it. And I feel badly because I think it would be good to be able to get all those words out in German. But I can't.
So German was the primary language in your home?
Well, it did. The kids didn't talk German that much. They all talked English. But Mom and Dad always talked German to each other. And sometimes they wanted to say something, they didn't want the kids to know what they were doing. Well, then the kids could learn it fast. And they can learn to find out what they said.
Did you get to speak German in school ever?
Huh?
Did you get to speak German in school at
Oh,
all?
no, not in school, but then later on when I worked in the grocery store, there was a couple of German ladies come in, and they always talked German, and then sometimes they called it on the telephone, you'd have to take their order. So I was glad that I still was able to talk German, those days. But like I say, I just have a hard time now if I want to talk German. I'm old.
Did you ever need to stay home from school to help out at home?
Not too much. 'Cause my main job towards the last, when the little ones started coming, was to kind of look after them, and be with them all the time, keep them out of trouble. So
What's your favorite memory about going to school?
well, my first grade teacher, I just fell in love with her, and she was quite an inspiration to me over the years, as long as she was around here. But, and then, I don't know, there's so many little things come up, but you don't, at that time, you don't think they're anything, But in memory-wise, it would be. And I remember when I was in the 8th grade, we took algebra. And my sister Mina had taken it the year before. So I thought, well, I'll get a lot of help from her. So because I had a hard time with algebra. Anyway, I would have my work done up and I'd bring it to school, and the teacher said, well, that's not right. You done that wrong. Well, all of us practically flunked algebra that year. So the next year we got into high school. And when I got in there, I took algebra again. And I had no problem. Everything went through perfect. I had a different teacher, but she was teaching it like my sister had learned it, And he wouldn't accept that work. He was correct. So anyway, then I did graduate. All of us got through our algebra that year, the first year of high school.
Did you have a lot of homework?
Not like they have nowadays. Nowadays they're swamped. No, we never had. We had steady periods, and I got most of my work done during the steady period. But we didn't have nothing like what they do now. Yeah.
Were you a good student?
Huh?
Were you a good student?
I tried to be. I never had any problems with the teachers. Never. I always got along good with my teachers. Yeah. I wasn't a teacher's pet either.
Did you keep books in your home to read, or did you only read at school?
Once in a while we'd bring books home for the night, and you'd read them, take them back again. I liked reading. I like to read.
What books did you read? Do you remember?
Oh, right now I just can't think of one. Isn't that dumb? But they had a library, and you could take home books,
All right. Did you take lunch with you?
Huh?
Did you take a lunch with you to school?
Yes, we did, because it's quite a ways uptown, And then one of the first couple of the years, we had to bring milk, just bring a gallon of milk for the family, And then they would make soup right there, everybody got. So we used to take things like that. And then later on, then in high school, we always took our lunch, and we never had a lot of cookies and stuff when we were kids growing up. But just too many to have all that sugar and stuff, Anyway, we had friends that they just loved our homemade pickles. So all we had to bring in our lunch pail was homemade pickles. And we got sandwiches and cookies and cake, whatever. We just exchanged. And to this day, the last time I saw one of the Larson girls, I said, remember our lunches in school? She said, I remember those dill pickles. I can almost taste it now, she said. But we had, but we just made them by the 50-gallon barrels, drums, a vinegar barrel. So all we did was take pickles to school, and then we'd have our cakes and cookies. And we'd take our own sandwiches, of course, but yeah, I remember that very plainly.
What else do you remember about school?
Well, I was in the 8th grade, and the teacher in the 4th and 5th grade was getting married. So they sent me down to teach that, those from the 8th grade. It was just part of the afternoon. So it was more or less just to babysit the kids. I don't even remember what class we had. I don't even remember that. But I know I went down and spent the afternoon down there while the teacher was off getting married. That's it.
Okay. Did you ever have like Valentine's Day parties at school?
Well, in the afternoon we'd have each exchange Valentine's, yeah. But like at Christmas time, we never exchanged gifts or anything like that. It was all Valentine's Day. We had made our Valentines and had a box to put them in and picked them out, and each one got their Valentine.
Were there any other school parties?
No, not really. No. One year, well, I was telling you about the year that I got crowned as queen back in the backyard. But it was fun. We had an afternoon program, and everything. It was so nice. And then one year, I was a senior there, another gal and I, we were having something going on, some kind of a program, and her and I had to go clear back in the trees kind of away and sing a couple of songs. Now, to this day, I can't remember the name of the songs we had, but they were songs like we used to sing in school, But her and I had to go back and sing. I remember that. Now I sound like a frog. And let's see, and now the last two years now, I've been taking Actonel for my shoulders, and that was my first prescription drug in my life.
Wow.
That's pretty good. And when I first paid for it, it was $87 for a month. And then I joined this Humana thing now. Now I only have to pay $30. So I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
The druggist didn't even want to believe me when I told him that was my first prescription drug in 90 years. He said, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Well, I said, don't if you don't want to. I said, I know. And he just couldn't get over that.
Wow. So you said there weren't any doctors when you were younger.
Well, they used to have a doctor here in Knox, but I was a kid then. And later on, they have it take it out. They come from Rugby. I mean, you have to go up to Rugby now for your doctoring. And I go about maybe once a year or once every 2 years.
Okay.
So, but I'm due now to go. I'm going to make an appointment now to go again, because I wanted my bone density to see how good it is now, after taking all those big pills.
Well, when you were a child, what did you do when you got sick? Did you go to
Mother
a doctor?
took care of us.
Yeah.
Mother took care of it. Yeah. And then of course we all were vaccinated for everything that's come along, And from being a big family like we were, there wasn't too much sickness here. And you'd think, there would be with 5 or 6 kids around all the time, but it wasn't.
Did your mother have home remedies for things?
For some things, she always, if we had honey and we're had a cold, you had hot water and tea and honey, lots of honey in it. That was one of her. And one time, my sister Eva and her friend went uptown, and they were doing, I'm getting ahead of myself. We were digging a hole for a new toilet, and that's how. And then when they were standing beside the car and accidentally dropped a lit firecracker in a tank, and everything blew. When she come home, her face was just a mess. Her hair was singed off, and mother says, "Go out and get some of that fresh clay from that hole." And she said, "Make a paste." So she did that, and she just pasted it all over her, And then later on, that paste kind of fell off. As it got hard and it fell off. So then she had me put egg yolks in a pan and take them over on the stove and kind of fry them down a little, Then she'd rub that egg yolk all over her face, And there was a salesman here that same day, and he says, "I want to see her a month from now and see how her face is." She had one scar down in here or someplace. One scar about the size of my fingernail. Otherwise, her face all cleared up just as slick and clean as a whistle. And this guy came back and he says, "I can't believe it." He said, "I just can't believe that she got that. Her face and everything got as nice as it did, Because he expected her to be all scarred, but she wasn't. So that was a remedy that I never heard of before, but she did it. That's all I can think of that.
All right. Well then, can you tell me a little bit about the chores you had to do when you were a child?
Well, one of my main chores were to look after the little ones. That was one of my main things. Took care of them as long as I could. And another one was the garden. He didn't have any spare time because there was always a garden to be weeded. And we had to feed the chickens, and do those things. Let's see. And in those days, you didn't have a yard to tend to. It was all nothing there. You always had to gather the eggs, bring those in, feed the chickens.
Did you have to help your mother inside?
Oh, well, when you weren't outside doing those things, you had help in here. One of my jobs was always washing clothes. And I was always standing over that tub and rubbing the old washboard.
Did you make your own soap for laundry?
Yep, we made our own soap.
How did you do that?
Huh?
How did you do that?
Well, you used lard, discarded lard, and you got it hot. Then you poured your lye into that hot lard. Then you stirred and stirred and stirred and stirred and stirred until it was a nice consistency. Then we had paper boxes out there that we poured in the paper boxes when we got done. And then the next morning you get up, and Mom would get up early and she'd cut the bars the size she wanted. Then she'd trim a nice smooth edges off, so it's nice and smooth around. And so that was the way we had it. And then the pieces she cut off, then you put them in a bag or a pail, and then you use those for washing clothes. Yeah, we did bought very little wash. In fact, we had some one time. We were having a sale, kind of what do you call this? You put things out for sale, anyway. And we had one lady from Rugby. She bought all the homemade soap. And then we got so we didn't make it anymore. And every time she'd come, she'd say, "No soap, no soap," because she thought that was the best for washing clothes, And it was real good for washing clothes. So. I'm waiting.
Do you remember any other things you had to help your mother with inside?
Well, when it come to butchering chickens, we used a stump, a wood stump, and put 2 nails in there. And then we put the chicken's head in between the 2 nails, chop it off with an axe. That's how we used to kill our chickens. And no problem. The job was catching the chickens first. But I still have that stump out there.
Really?
Yeah, it was a handy thing to have.
Now, when you butchered the chickens, did you pluck them then?
You scalded them first. You have to scald them in hot water, and then you just sick them. The feathers come right off then. No problem. And then if sometimes there would be kind of like hair on them, then you'd had to singe that off before you cut them open and wash them. Yeah. I used to go down to my sister's when she lived in Silva. We'd butcher as high as 20 chickens a day down there. That was a big job. But I never minded it. I'd go down in the morning, we'd start in, and by 4 o'clock I was on my way home. Chickens were all cut up, put in the freezer.
Now, when you were a child, did you do any other butchering?
Oh yeah, they butchered the pigs. We didn't often have beef, it was mostly pigs. And my job was to go out when they killed them and stuck them, was to catch the blood. And then I'd have to, with salt in there, put salt in the blood. And you had to keep stirring it and stirring it and stirring it, otherwise it would coagulate on you, you know. So that was always my job. And I didn't mind doing it.
What did you use that for then?
Made blood sausage.
Okay.
Like you make pork sausage, you use certain, like the liver and part of the tongue and things like that, different bits. Then you made blood sausage. And I'd give my left hand if I could find some now. Because I used to just love that. And you'd boil it, and then you'd fry it. Oh. And I tell that to other people, they just almost gag, but it's good. Yeah, I used to like to mix that up with salt and pepper, and then I'd taste it. And they'd say, oh, but I never minded it. Oh, must have been something good in there.
What else did you make? Did you make other kinds of sausage?
Yeah, we made liver sausage, head cheese, blood sausage, and regular pork sausage. The only thing left that we didn't use was a squeal. You heard that expression, haven't you? Otherwise, you used everything.
Can you tell me how you made head cheese?
Head cheese?
Yeah.
You take the meat off of the head. You boil the head first. You take the eyes and that stuff out. You clean it up, Then you boil the meat. And then you take the jaws of that and put a little pork sausage with it. And then you put your spices in, a little spice in. Garlic mostly. We use mostly garlic, not a lot of spices. And then you have to grind it up, stuff it in you had the stomach. They used to take the stomach and Mom would scrape and scrape and scrape and clean that thing so it was clean. There's no, and you soaked it in vinegar water for a while. But you'd stuff this in there, and then you'd have to boil it until you thought it was done. Then you took it out, and then you put it on a board, and put the sausage on, or the head cheese on that, and then put a weight on top of that to squeeze out all the juice. And it got to be nice and firm. And the same with the liver sausage. You had to use mostly the liver in that, liver and heart. And then you put that in the casings like you did the other sausage. Just boil them. And oh, that was so good to eat cold. You don't have those things anymore,
What were some of the other things you made for yourself? Did you churn butter?
Oh yeah, we churned butter. We had I imagine it was about a 5-gallon wooden crock. And you sit there and you churn and churn and churn and that buttermilk, I used to just love that. And you don't get that anymore. And then we always had to keep everything in our basement because we didn't have refrigerators, those days. So the basement. And then in the summertime, we have that house that sits over there. That's a summer kitchen. And every spring, we'd move over there for the summer, like our dishes and cooking utensils and everything. And then we did all our baking over there, and then we had another shed that we used for washing clothes in the bathroom, you know. But that's not there anymore. But anyway, we move over in the spring, and then you clean this house on a Saturday, and it stayed clean all week because nobody was in here, only to sleep, you know. And then this house always stayed nice and clean. And then after that, then you did all your cooking and baking. And one time we were baking bread, and with the screen doors open, you know, everything you could smell the bread baking. And one day the freight train stopped out here. That's when they had the coal engines, you know. And they were doing some switching, and it takes a while for the switch with those trains. And here, we just got through baking bread, and we had loaves this long, our pans, you know. And here come a great big tall Negro up to the house. We were outside, we kids. He says, "Lady," he says, "can I have a ham sandwich?" He said, "I am so hungry, I am so hungry." Mom said, "Yes." She said, "We'll make you one." And just then the train whistled. He says, "Lady," he says, "the train's going to take off and I won't catch it." So Mom said, "Give him that loaf of bread." We couldn't even put it in a bag. He was in such a, so we gave him that long loaf of bread. And I'll bet you from the time he left that summer kitchen door till he got to the track, he hollered back 25 times, "Thank you." He was so tickled to get a loaf of bread. So that was our good deed for the day. You know. But I liked living over there in the summertime, during the day, you know, because it was always so nice, and everything was painted white and kept clean. But not no more. I don't do nothing over there now. Store junk.
So what other things did your mom make? Foods?
You mean food?
Yeah.
Oh, we had lots of dumplings, lots of soup, lots of bread. But we never had a lot of pies and cookies and cake. We just never did, because we needed the sugar other places, you know. So we never did have a lot of that. But we survived.
Did she do a lot of canning?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we canned. We didn't have freezers in those days, so we had to can everything. And we always had two 50-gallon vinegar drums, you know. We had them in the basement. And we raised our own cucumbers and our own watermelons. So when fall came, you put dill on the bottom of the barrel, and then you put your spices in there, and you put your cucumbers on top, and then we had choke cherry leaves. You put a lot of that in there, and then we put another layer until we had the barrels full, and then just waited for them to cure, you know. So we always had a 50-gallon of pickles and 50 gallons of watermelons.
Why choke cherry leaves?
I don't know. That was Mother always put choke cherry leaves in there. That was one thing when we had plenty of them here. So she always said, "Well, go out and get some choke cherry leaves and put in." So there must have been something in that. Well, I don't know. I just did as I was told. And now I make pickles, but I make them a different way, and I never have any left at all. I always run out. Because lots of times I used to put pickles on the table. When the kids all came, I'd have them cut up in a big bowl. And by the time you sat down to eat, there was none left on the table. Every time they'd walk by, they'd grab a pickle. So Eva said one day, "You guys, what are you doing to Maggie's pickles?" "Well, we can't help it. They're good." And then another time I had kohlrabi in the garden. So I thought, well, I'm going to surprise them today. I'm going to get kohlrabi. So I cut them, brought them in, peeled them, sliced them up, set them on the table. And we got ready to eat. There weren't any left. And it was a big bowl full. And I said, what happened to the kohlrabi? Eva says, "See that crowd in there?" Because every time they'd walk by, they'd grab one. So that's just little things that happen with those kids. So now that she had a family of 10, and with her kid, oh, I was going to get a picture and show it to you, but I can't get it. It's sitting in there on that little stand. Well, my cucumbers are so small in the garden that I don't think I'll ever get pickles this year. My garden is no good this year at all.
Well, it's been so wet.
Yeah, and my ground is as hard as this table. Never. I've had gardens for years, but never had one like this one. And I don't know if it's the hard rains that packed it or what, I don't know. But I went out the other day and hoed the whole thing, so. And if nothing comes, I'll summer follow.
Do you remember anything else about things that your family made for themselves? Like, did you ever make your own alcohol at your house?
No, they made beer.
Did they?
Beer and root beer.
Yeah. How did they do that?
Oh, you had to have hops and water. And then they had some kind of a mixture for beer, for the beer part, but I don't remember how that's done. And the root beer is the same way. You had some kind of a stuff in a bottle, and then you had to add water and let it stand for so long. And you had to always put hops in it. But they used to have that, and friends come, that's what they drink, beer.
Did you make ice cream when you were growing up?
Yep. But not a lot. We just never didn't have, in the wintertime, we never thought about making it. Well, we could have had a lot of ice, you know, but we would make it once in a while, but not very often. Just, like I say, the sugar was always a problem with that many kids, you know.
All right. What was your favorite food that your mom made?
My least favorite was sauerkraut and watermelon. Sauerkraut and noodles. That was my least favorite. And it seemed like when I was washing clothes, the day I washed clothes, worked so hard, always had sauerkraut. And I got so I couldn't stand to eat it after a while. But now I like it again. But that was one of my, she used to make a lot of soup. We had a lot of soup. And then she'd make a lot with noodles, you know, homemade noodles. And then we made a lot of homemade kuchen. We used to bake it for different ones for wedding. Homemade kuchen. But now when you're alone, you don't do all those things anymore. It's easier to go to the store and plunk down a couple dollars.
Were Sunday meals different than the rest of the week?
Huh?
Were Sunday dinners different than the rest of the week?
Most of the time, that was always a big day. Otherwise, everything was made with dough. We liked, in German they're called Dumpfnute. You know.
Can you spell that?
D-U-M-P. F, I don't know. U-M-P-F, I think. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, it was a dough. We used to have that a lot. And then we'd have, on our Friday meal lots of times, was prune sauce and these noodles. You eat the two together, you know. And then lots of times I do that, I boil raisins, and then I boil egg noodles. And I eat the two together. It's about the same difference. I don't make the noodles anymore.
Do you remember any other foods that your mom made that you really liked or really didn't like?
No, I liked everything. And I used to show it, but I don't anymore. No, I can't get over 82 pounds. That's all I can muster. I thought I had a picture here of myself. Oh well, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Now, here it is.
Oh,
When I was in high school, I weighed 134 pounds when I graduated. And I just been down the hill ever since. Well, when Dad died, that kind of took me down, and then, I kind of had to look after things pretty much. And the same with Mom. So. And now I'm too ornery to put anything on.
Yeah. Okay, well, how often did you take baths when you were growing up?
Every week.
Every week?
Yeah. In the little wash tub. In those early days, it was a wash tub. But then later on, we got a tub with the legs on it, And we put it in this room here. And then in the summertime, we'd move it over to the summer kitchen part, so we could take baths in that other building. And when our wash machine and everything was in that building. And so, if you want more, help yourself.
I'm fine.
You had to haul water then?
Yeah,
And heat
yeah.
the stove?
From way out by the barn, we'd have to haul the water up. 10 gallon drum at a time, and 10-gallon tank, And then we had the well put in. I dug a well right out here by the house, but we still didn't have running water for quite a few years. But we did have the water piped in through the wall. So all we had to do was turn it on in the house, and we get our water. And then my Mom was still living when I had the running water put in, so that was way back in 55 or 56. I got running water put in.
Do you remember when you got electricity?
Pardon?
Do you remember when you got electricity?
Well, we did have electricity way back in the first years,
Really?
The folks lived here. When electricity came in this area, they got it right away. So I suppose it would be maybe in 17, 18 or something.
Did your family always have a car?
Yep. They always had some kind. They had a Whippet, and they had an Overland and Fords. Whatever could come along at that time, they had. But not new ones. They were always used ones,
Do you remember learning how to drive?
I imagine I was about 21 when I learned how to drive. Well, I was working uptown, and my brother said, "You better learn to drive so you don't have to walk every day." So I did, but then I didn't drive too often to town because I used to back road here, so it wasn't so far, You just did it. But then they came in, did some work under the railroad track, under the culvert, and they messed it up, the road so bad that we couldn't use that road for a long time. Now the water stands over it. Yeah, so now we have to go the other way. Now I ride instead of walking.
Right. Did your mother do or make most of your clothing when you were growing up?
Well, she made a lot of them when we first were small, She made a lot of the clothing. But then later years, we had friends that always give us clothes. In fact, I went through high school wearing hand-me-downs all my 4 years of high school from friends. I couldn't afford new ones, With this many kids to clothe, it was pretty tough, And you had to be careful with your shoes. You didn't use them for out in the barn and then come to the house and use them for church. You had to save.
How often did you get new shoes? How often did you get new shoes?
Once a year. Lucky if I got them then.
And you mentioned that you quilted with your mother.
Mm-hmm.
Did she always do things like quilting?
Well, we started, the neighbor ladies were quilters. And so one day she said, "Let's make a quilt and try it." So we made an old-fashioned quilt, not a double wedding, a nosegay, I think it was called. And sewed it together. And a neighbor lady lived over there at that time. There was a house there. And she said, I'll come and help you get started. So she came over and helped us put it on the frame. And Mom and I both sat down, and I thought, oh, I'm going to be smart. I know how to do this. No. First 10 stitches I put in, I had to pull out. She says, they're not small enough. And I started over again. I said, well, Missy Dearloff, I can't get them any smaller. Try. So she made me do it again. I think I had to pull it out 4 times, my stitches, before she let me leave them in. But there was a knack to doing it. You had to get it so you had your thimble to push that needle down and bring it up real fast, you know. So that it would only be, stitches would be like this. So finally she let me quit. She said, now you got the hang of it. So then we made quilts like they were going out of style. And we had a frame sitting in here one time and one in there. And another lady came out here, and she was, oh, I just loved to quilt. And she quilted, she got so much done on that quilt that day. But when we looked on the bottom side, she hadn't gone through. She just got through the cotton and the top side. So then we had to rip it all out and start over again. So that didn't pay. So, but we used to have as high as 12, 13 women out here at a time quilting. Some would quilt in there and some would quilt out here. Yeah. Now we made quilts for each one of my brothers and sisters. They each got a quilt. And then when Mother went out west one time to one of my brother's place to visit, the girl had this quilt out in the yard laying on the ground, out in the grass. And Mother saw that and she come home and she says, no more quilts for the kids. That's it. That does it. And then she told me what happened. So that we never made another quilt to give to the kids. That was it. But they already had 14 of them, you know, till each family got one. There's 14 kids. So, but we quilted for years. There was, all winter long there was a quilt in the frames. And then after she died, then so many ladies had brought me the tops. All I had to do was quilt them. So I did all these by myself. That's in this book here. And but it was something, and you earned $50 for a quilt. But now it wasn't worth it because it's not hard on the eyes and hard on the fingers. Look how my fingers curled. I think that's just from sitting like this. So that's the extent of my quilting.
All right. Well, remember anything else just about your daily life on the farm?
Well, I used to, when after Gus left, or before he left, I was milking cows. I had 7 cows that I milked. And he'd be in the field. So then I'd always milk the cows. Then I'd come in and eat. But his wife wanted him to come in and eat at 6 o'clock. So he'd go uptown to where they lived, and he'd go home and eat at 6 o'clock, and I'd be sitting out here milking cows. And they got all the milk and cream they wanted for nothing. And so one day Mom said, you're going to change that. We're going to eat at 6 o'clock. Then we'll milk the cows afterwards, and he can help you. And at that time, I was milking 7 cows. So that's what happened then when he left. And he sold his cows. I only had 2 left. So then I milked those until we decided to sell them then. But I didn't mind doing it, but Mother thought that was, when they were getting their milk and cream, that he should be helping too, you know. Because she never come out to do anything. So. But then that was life.
Now, did you have a telephone while you were growing up?
Oh, not in the early days, we didn't. It wasn't until the later years when we got a telephone. If you wanted to talk, you had to go see him talk. Yeah. Yeah. And now I practically live on the darn thing. And I'm losing one friend after another to death, so it gets to be even less and less and less. But like I was telling him, I have one of those nieces from Virginia. She calls me every day. Every day. I think maybe since her mother died, I would say been about 3 times that she hasn't called me. And that's 2 years now.
Wow.
So I think that's pretty nice.
All right. Well, can you tell me your earliest memories of church?
Yeah, when they had it here. And I would say I was born in 16, so I imagine I was 4 years old when they first started having church here.
Did you have a lot of neighbors come over?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Then Mom always had soup, so everybody sat down and had soup before they went home. Big kettles of soup, you know. But then it got to be too many people, so then they just rented a place uptown to have them at the church. And then one of the places, there wasn't room for us kids to sit. The seats were full of people, you know. So we always had to sit down on the kneeler, by the communion rail. You know what that is. And we have to sit there during the sermon and look at the people. And I used to hate that because I didn't want people staring at me, and I didn't want to be staring at people either. But we had to do it. And then we, for a while, we went to church in Rigby till we got our own church here in Knox. And then they bought a Presbyterian church. That's how. Then we started having church in Knox. Once a week, the priest would come down. So, and I've been a secretary since way back, and I'm still secretary. For a while, I was treasurer, and then we gave it to somebody else because it was getting to be too much. So, but I still kept the secretarial part. So. And then now there isn't that much. Being the priest lives in Rigby, I don't have that much to do. But everybody wants their baptismal records or marriage, just all that information. Then I have to send that out. That's what I do now. And we have our meetings, so I have to keep minutes of the meetings. And I'm beginning to think I'm getting too old for all this crud, but pretty soon I'll give it up.
Well, were you baptized or confirmed?
I was baptized in where they had rented the first church in Knox, in an old building. It was a newspaper office, and that's where I was baptized, upstairs, because they rented that for 2 or 3 years, and then our confirmation we had to make that in Rigby. First communion was in Knox, but then they did the confirmation in Rigby. And we had to drive. We just stayed. My sister Mina and I stayed with our relatives up there. First classes, you know. So folks didn't have to drive back and forth. And
can you tell me about the actual ceremonies for First Communion or confirmation?
oh, you had to be dressed up in a little white dress and a little white, just like a little bride, you know. And that was supposed to have been the happiest day of your life.
Was it?
Well, it was and then we come home and we took pictures now, and don't ask me where those pictures are now. They're here someplace. But we were pretty proud, because then we could go to communion every Sunday, you know. And our confirmation, we had to make that in Rigby at that time, because they weren't having church down here only once a month. So then we had to go up there and be confirmed in Rigby.
Did you have a celebration at home for your confirmation or
Well,
for communion?
no, about the same as we always had, same Sunday meals we always had.
Okay. Were there any special rules because of your religion in your house?
Pardon?
Were there any special rules because of religion in your house?
Well, we had to keep up our prayers. Our rosary was the mainstay. That we had to do. Yeah, the folks were strict on the religion, which was all right. It didn't hurt them, didn't hurt us. But they wanted us to be brought up properly, the way they thought. So.
Was there ever any German used in your church?
Any what?
Any German spoken in
No,
your church?
no. It was all English. English and then Latin, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember anything else about church or religion when you were growing up?
I generally taught Sunday school when I was getting older. I taught Sunday school. And I was in the church choir, but now I sound like a toad. But I used to sing in the choir. And I used to take care of the church, clean it, and do all the laundry work, all the linens, you know. I did that for many, many years. From way back in 1941 when we built the church until about maybe 10 years ago. I used to do all the laundry, all the cleaning the church, and the priest appointed 2 other ladies to be sacristan, so I quit. And I said something about, well, that's good, then I don't have to do laundry anymore. She said, oh no. She says, you get that with it. You get to do that. You did such a good job. I said, oh no. I said, if you're going to be sacristan, you do the work, like I did. And I haven't done nothing since. I haven't done no washing of anything. And maybe that's wrong, I don't know, but I just thought, well, if I wasn't doing it good enough for them, I let them do it. So that minister isn't here anymore. He's gone, long gone.
Can you tell me about the 30s?
The dirty ones?
The dirty ones.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the crops and the gardens were terrible that year. And I think that was the year we started getting food stamps, wasn't it? About that time. And we get food stamps, but we'd always run out of the sugar ones. And to this day, I still got a book that's got food stamps in it that we didn't use, stuff we didn't use. But it was tough. You know, if you didn't have your own meat and your own vegetables, it was tough going. And then we'd get our flour ground to have flour, or our wheat ground to have flour, you know. And it was tough because there's so many of us in the family, and you know, and you had to have staples like flour and sugar. It was hard. And then we got the food stamps, but that, with this big a family, that didn't go far, you know. But we all survived because we had our own meat and potatoes, you know, and vegetables. And we did a lot of canning in those days. That's a dead thing now. With me anyhow, I don't do nothing like that anymore. Pickles. It's the only thing.
Do you remember any dust storms?
Huh?
Do you remember any dust storms?
Oh yes. Sometimes it would be so thick you couldn't see even out towards the highway. You know, everything just blowed to smithereens. You didn't have all the trees either then that you have now to protect you. If we'd had the trees, it would have been nice, but yeah, that was pretty tough years. Those dust storm days.
Do you remember lots of grasshoppers or
Yeah.
rabbits?
One time we had the grasshoppers were so thick that you walked outside, you didn't dare open your mouth. And we had a little boy in town, little Patrick Wolf, and he was outside and he swallowed a grasshopper. He came in and he cried, and his daddy said, well, that's nothing. He said, just think, you're the first boy in Knox that ever swallowed a grasshopper. So he made a big sign and put it on front of him, and he walked around as proud as a peacock because he was the first kid that ever swallowed a grasshopper. And he thought that was good. But they were so thick that day, when you walked out, they just come out in droves on you, you know. When you walked out in the open, you know, they were terrible. And you didn't have much crop either. And your gardens didn't amount to nothing because they ate it up faster than you could grow. Well, that was awful.
Do you remember the WPA?
Yep. I've got a toilet out there that was built by the WPA. And to this day, and I don't think anybody's got one of those anymore. So I could have gotten rid of it because I have an indoor, but I thought, why get rid of it? Because that's kind of a keepsake. You know. We had a priest from a foreign country was here a few years back. And he couldn't get over that I still had an outdoor. He said, I know where you live. All I got to do is look for the outdoor. So that's what he remembers about it.
How about the CCCs?
I remember when the boys had to go into the CCD, but I don't remember too much about that. I do know that they built a little bridge down by Pleasant Lake, and I think they sat inside more and played cards than they did build a bridge. So the guys had a good time.
Yeah. Is there anything else you remember about the Depression?
It was just tough going. Yeah.
All right.
And you didn't waste anything. You saved, you know. And when you had your own milk and cream, butter, and your vegetables and your meat, why, you managed to get by. But those people that lived in town, I don't know, it must have been tough on some of them, you know, that had to buy everything, you know. So. And part of our family was gone by that time, so we didn't have so many around here to eat.
Well then, can you tell us about the outbreak of World War II? How did that affect you?
I don't know that it did.
Were any of your brothers?
No. I had one brother in the Navy. Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, the rest of them didn't have to go.
Did rationing affect you at all during the war?
Huh?
Did rationing affect you?
No. We made do. No. Yeah. Like I say, we always ran out of the circle ones, because that was one of the things we always had to have a lot of. So. That's it.
How about any other wars or anything? Did they affect your life?
No.
Okay. Then, what was your most stressful childhood memory?
Oh, I think when my dad passed away, and my mother, they were my most stressful ones. Yeah. Because then everything was on my shoulders. Because I was still living here with Mama.
How did your mother cope with that when your father died?
It was tough. I know we were down in Rochester, and I'm one of these that don't cry outwardly. It all stays inside. And she was crying so hard down there when she got home the day of the funeral. I was beat because I had to take care of everything, you know. And I went upstairs to lay down, and I heard her say, "Well, Maggie sure must not have liked her dad." She said she didn't even cry. And I thought to myself, lady, if you'd have only known how I was crying inside, and that was harder. If I could have cried out, it would have been better. I'd have felt a lot better. But she didn't realize that was happening to me. So. And I never told her any different. I didn't even let her know that I heard the remark. Because I didn't want to make her feel bad then. So that's how it went. That's it on that, I guess.
All right. What was your happiest childhood memory?
Lordy, did I have one? I don't know. They were all happy. There's no special ones. They were all worked out the same. Yeah.
Right. Well then, what's the most adventurous thing you did as a child?
I'd have had time to think of these questions. See, I don't know. I don't know. I had to learn to roller skate, I know. And that was a little bit tough on the bottom. But I managed to roller skate.
How old
And
were you?
ice skating, I couldn't ice skate. That was tough. I tried that, but I spent more time sitting in the warming house than I did on the ice because I couldn't skate.
Did most everybody go skating in the
Well,
winter?
they just had a small pond uptown, and then there was a little warming house there, so if you didn't skate, you sat there and visited, you know. That's what I had to do because I couldn't skate. That's it. That's all I know there.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add about your childhood?
Oh, dear. I think that's all in there already.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't think of anything else now. I'll think of a lot of things after you're gone.
When you graduated from high school, what did you do next?
I didn't go on to school. I just got my job at the post office right after that. So I just kept right on working. And if that being part-time, I could go out and do these other little jobs in between time, you know. So I worked in we had two grocery stores, and I've worked in both of those during my growing up years. And like I say, I did a lot of paper hanging and painting. Then I worked in a gamble store for a little while, part-time. And the cream station part-time.
The cream station?
Cream station, you buy the cream, you know. Farmers would bring their cream in, you had to test it, and you send it away on the train, and they got paid right away, and then I had to wait for my pay. But we were just up at the museum in Rugby. They got a good museum, and we were looking at the cream station up there, and it looked so nice when I see all this stuff. I had to use to test that cream, put it in a little bottle and put some stuff in it, and then swing it around to find out what their butterfat was, you know. And it was an interesting job, cream station. But I looked at those 10-gallon cans, and I used to have to take them to the depot uptown, and it'd be from here as far as that house over there. Don't ask me how I got those 10-gallon cans up there, but I did. Now I can't even pick up an empty one. I've lost all my strength.
What kinds of things did you do for fun when you were a little older? What kinds of things did you do for entertainment when you were a little older?
Well, I like to used to go to dances. I enjoyed that. Bingo. And visit with friends, you know, just visiting. Like I say, we used to go back and forth. Now they don't do that anymore. If you want to talk to anybody, you use the telephone. You don't go to visit. But I enjoyed dancing and just getting together with people.
All right. Well then, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your life?
I'm getting too old to cut the mustard. No, I can't complain because I have been healthy all my life. I've been very healthy. And like I say, I take Actonel now, and that's my first prescription pill in all those years. So I don't dare say that my life has been tough. When I think of what other people have to go through, you know, I consider myself very fortunate. And I don't know what he's keeping me here for. Must have a reason.
Well, why do you think it's important to share your life story?
Well, someday the kids will have something to look back on, you know. My nieces and nephews, and their nieces, and I think I have 26 nieces and nephews. I think that's what it is. You know. Besides this family, and they'd be great. Some of those would be great nieces and nephews, you know. But there's 10 nieces and nephews alone in that family. Yeah. And I'm sure if they find out I got a tape made, they'll all want one. I mean, my nephew, Kenny Norby, he's been after me to make a tape, but I never did. Now I talk more than I should have now.
Oh, no. Well, do you have any final thoughts or observations for us?
Just hope that they put me in the right grave out there. I went about 5 years ago, or maybe longer than that. My sister-in-law was here, and her husband is buried out here. So she bought a tombstone, and I did too. Same time we both bought. They're like, you know. And I was sitting here last winter, and I thought, when I had that tombstone made, did I put in 1900 and something? You know, because it already was 2000 something. And I couldn't sleep that night. The next morning I had to drive out to see whether I had the 2000 on there or the 1000, 1900, you know. But I don't have nothing on there, so I'm okay. See, I was hoping I wouldn't go that fast. But it was funny. I couldn't remember. But I decided I'd put one out there, then I know I'd have one. You know, then the kids wouldn't have to worry about it. You know. So it's ready for me whenever I go. I'm going to surprise them. Maybe I won't go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I can't think of anything else.
All right.
I think I've rattled on long enough.
Oh, we'd love to listen for more hours. But thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you for getting it over with.
Okay.
Quite a few years ago, Dad was able to find this building over here we call the summer kitchen. It was out here uptown on a lot. And he bought it and they brought it out. And in the summertime, we'd move over our dishes and our food. And we didn't have a refrigerator right away, but we finally got one. We moved it back and forth from one house to the other. We did all our cooking over there, all our baking, all our canning, so that this house, the other house, was always kept cool. All week long we'd have a clean house. So we never had to keep working on both of them. So we just slept there and ate here. And that's my garden spot over there. There's a little old lady from Pasadena. And I have a good garden every year, but I don't care about him, do I? I can just talk.
You can
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah, we had always had a good garden, but this year, for some reason, it's just not doing as good as it should be doing.
Yeah.
But I had fresh spinach yesterday for the first time, and I've eaten so much lettuce it's going to waste now. But yesterday I come out and put Miracle Grow on everything, so I hope it does something.
Well, it looks like it's doing okay.
And I've had radishes already, onions. Yeah. And this is the other side of the summer kitchen. It don't look so hot, but
Yeah.
my nieces and nephews came last year. They painted that, but I ran out of paint on this side. And then they painted the red greenery over there for me.
Okay.
And they painted the outhouse.
And can you tell us about this?
Yeah, now this is a WPA outhouse. And it's got a big cement slab in there. in the original seat. And it gets used in the summertime when company comes. A lot of the kids always go out here, go to the outhouse. And this is my garage that my brother built. I used to put my car in the barn all the time, but the door got so heavy I couldn't open it anymore. So then he built me a new garage. And I'm glad I couldn't open it. But anyway, it was just a block of wood about that size.
Yeah.
And then I had a nail, 2 nails in there.
Yeah.
And then you put the chicken's head in the nails.
Yeah.
Then you chop it off with an axe.
Then they go flopping all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they go flopping all over, you're right. Yeah. And let's see, and that out there is a barn. That was
Over here?
the barn that was built in 1928.
That barn?
Yeah. And it needs shingles so bad, but the bottom is kind of getting away from the, so I can't see spending $5,000 on the top when the bottom is going to hell.
Yeah.
And that used to be one of our granaries over there. And that was built by like the toilet was built.
Oh, the WPA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we bought that. Now I used to have a green gas tank over there, but we finally got rid of that. And that used to be our first garage over there.
That little red building?
Yeah. Those cars in those days would fit in there, but now they won't fit in. Mine won't fit in there no more. So it's my shop for my lawnmowers and things like
great.
that.
Yeah.
And that's the little old house that I live in. And by looking at those papers before you came, I'm sure that house is over 100 years old.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And this is where you were born.
Huh?
This is where you were born.
That's where I was born.
Yeah.
And then this is my front, the backyard. It's just like picnic ground out there.
Really?
Yeah. I keep all of this cut because I don't want to mess back there. You know, otherwise you get wild animals in there. You know. And I have a deer. He comes to see me almost every day. And all I got to do is look in my garden. And the other night I was sitting in the window where he took the pictures from. I was sitting there, and here come a deer right by the window. And I got up, and boy, that deer took off like a shot.